This is a camera. This is another camera. If syncing two cameras together makes you want to curl up in a ball, this video is for you. Hey everyone, thanks for checking out the Church Video School channel. I'm Spencer, the founder of churchvideoschool.com, where we help your church win when it comes to video and ministry. For many of us, as we get more and more used to online church, we're learning that one static camera angle just isn't that interesting to watch. Adding a second or third camera to your worship shoot or even to your sermon or your pastor's host time is really valuable at making people stay engaged. However, for a lot of us, syncing multiple cameras is a really daunting task. In this video, I'm going to show you how easy it is to work with multicam editing inside Final Cut Pro 10. And if you're not a Final Cut Pro user, these tactics should work for you in any editing software that you have. Step number one to having a successful multicam shoot is to have similar cameras. It's really difficult to match different brand cameras because they use different color science. And so when you go to correct and or grade this footage, you're going to notice that there's different tints, different hues, and they miss in different areas. You're going to make your life much easier if you stay in the same family of cameras, whether that's Canons, Panasonics, Blackmagics, you name it. Stick with the same family of camera and you're going to have a much easier time when the edit comes around. The second way to make your multicam shoot super easy is to smash the like button on this video. Just kidding, but seriously. It's very important that each camera has its own audio feed coming in. For most of us who are not shooting on cinema cameras, there is a microphone built in to these DSLR and mirrorless cameras or even camcorders. These mics generally suck. However, when we go to sync our angles inside our editor and it's able to use audio from each camera source to even match each other and match the microphone, it's going to be so much easier to get things perfectly synced together. So if you have a built-in microphone, never use it for your main audio, but make sure you don't disable it when it comes time to actually hit record. If you're working with a more modular camera that does not have a built-in microphone, make sure you either attach a cheap shotgun mic to it or send a feed from your main audio mix into that camera so that you have some kind of reference point. The other way to get around this is to do this. If you've ever seen an old school clapboard for Hollywood movies, the reason they do that is because they're trying to sync audio and video when their cameras don't all have audio coming in. So you sync something very obviously visual. When my hands hit together, I can see visually when they connect, and then I can look for a spike in the audio waveform of whatever my audio feed is if I'm syncing manually. So if you make a mistake and you don't have audio coming into your camera, make sure you use a clapper of some kind to give you a reference point that's both visual and audio so that you can sync things up by hand. However, today I'm going to show you how easy it is to use audio to sync up angles inside Final Cut Pro. So let's hop in my computer and check it out. All right, so here we are inside Final Cut Pro. I've created a new event over here just called Multicam Editing. And then I have already imported all the files here so you can see the two audio files from the Tascam recorder, then one angle of video and the other camera angle. In order to make a multicam clip, you obviously have to select all of the angles that you want to synchronize. So it's going to be a little bit easier to do that if I go and rearrange these so I see them as files instead of as thumbnails. So I'm going to select these four here. I'm going to right click on one of them and I'm going to go to the new multicam clip button. When I hit that, it's going to pull up this little window and I'm going to name it Talking Head Multicam because it's creating a new clip. So I want to make sure that I can find it and I know what is in it. I like to reset the starting time code to 0 so that when I'm working inside the clip, I know exactly how many minutes in and out I am instead of it starting at 33. And then I've learned that if you don't change the settings here, say I know I'm going to export this project at 1080p, but I shot it in 4K. If I downsample this to 1080p here, which I can do pretty easily, I've noticed there's a pretty noticeable quality loss in the final product as opposed to me keeping the clip in its native dimensions and then letting the project and the export settings reduce down to 1080p. I think it just does a better job of that later as opposed to doing it now when it's combining angles. And then again, make sure that use audio for synchronization is checked. This is going to tell the computer, look for waveform synchronicity between all of your sources. And because that's the way that we shot these multicam clips, that's going to be the easiest way to do this. You don't have the ability to send time code between cameras of this type. So, just using audio is the easiest way, but you got to make sure this box is checked. Otherwise, it's not going to do that by default. And then here at angle synchronization, you're going to see that there are other ways to do that, but you just don't want to mess with it. Just leave it at automatic. You can even hit the use automatic settings here. I like to at least see what it's doing to make sure I didn't change something last time and then forget. So these properties here are all good. I want to keep these the same as what was shot in camera. If I want to change things later, I can change the project setting. But for the clip, I just want things to be combined. They're all synchronized. They're all the same camera settings, so there's no need to mess with any of this. So I'm going to hit OK, and then it's going to synchronize the angles. So what we're going to do now is we've got this clip here, and I want to put it in our project. So I've got the project open here. I'm going to click this. I'm going to hit E, which is just an append edit, which just throws it right in. And then I'm going to hit Shift Z to just see the entire project right here. So things look fine here, and I'm going to close my inspector window because I don't really need to mess with that. But in order to know that things are actually set properly, you have to get inside this clip. It's not very intuitive, but in order to get inside the multicam clip, what you want to do is double click on the clip itself inside the timeline. So I'm going to do that, and it's going to open up the multicam clip here. All right, so now that we're in here, you can see that we've got audio 1 and audio 2 synced with each other, which should have been pretty quick and easy for the computer. These are the same file, just different volume. Then we've got camera 1 right here, camera 2 right here, and because these are lined up with each other, I'm pretty confident that these are working together, and I can give a quick listen to double check that. Sometimes I'll see a situation where like one clip is like living way over here, and that usually tells me that that clip either had no audio with it or it was completely like the wrong clip and so there was nothing that matched up. So it just throws it in somewhere. So I'm gonna hit Command Z to return that. But right now I hit start, pretty much immediately with these guys, and so it doesn't surprise me that they look really, really tight here. That tells me things are lined up. What I like to do is just label these a little bit easier. So I'm going to throw this up top and throw this below it, and then I'll label this camera 1 and camera 2. So there you go. Now when I go back here, nothing's changed, but what we're going to do to make our edits is we're going to hit Shift Command 7 to bring up the multicam editor. And so that's going to show me my angles here, and I can let it show me as many angles as I want. So right now if I hit 4, I've got my 2 video angles and my 2 audio. The reason I reorganize my clips inside here is so that these 2 show up on top so that I can just hit 1 and 2 while I'm scrubbing, and it'll let me cut between angle 1 and angle 2 easier, whereas it would have been 3 and 4 had these been here. It's just a little bit easier. You don't have to do that. You also want to make sure that when you're cutting, if you're going to use an external audio channel like this, or if you basically just don't want audio to follow video, if you want one dedicated audio source and you just want to cut what you see, you want to switch this toggle icon here to film strip so that when I cut, it's only cutting blue. It's only cutting what I see, but it's not changing what I hear. And that's by far the way that I cut most frequently. If you want to do the reverse of that, if you say, hey, I need to switch to mic 2, say you have 2 people talking, then you can do that here. And if you want to cut them together, just leave it on the default. All right, so what I'm going to do now with this project is just start playing through. I'm going to hit L, let my playhead roll through, and then as I see an opportunity for cutting, I'm going to just hit 2. I'm going to cut here. I'm going to hit 1, and I'll cut back, and I'm just going to do that. And you see that every time I do that, I'm going to stop here. If I zoom in, you can see that it created a little clip. So every time you change an angle, it creates a new section of your clip, which means that you can either adjust the properties of just this angle, or you can cut it out if you don't like it. But it at least basically segments this multicam clip like you just use the cutting tool every time you cut an angle. And so if you miscut something, you can actually just go here, right click on it and say, I'd actually like to use the other angle. Like I'd cut that backwards and I spelled that wrong too. So it gives you the ability to kind of correct your work if you screw something up. But that's what is going to happen as you roll through. And so what I'm going to do now is I'm actually just going to cut this project, and then we're going to dive back in and I'm going to show you my absolute favorite part and why I love working with multicam clips in Final Cut Pro so much. So I'm going to show you that here in just a quick second. I have now finished editing this project, or at least cutting up this talking head portion of things. You can see from one clip to the next, we've got a number of angle cuts. Some aren't cut from angle to angle, but it doesn't matter. I've cut this up, and let's just say that this is it, that I'm done and I'm ready to go. What I would normally do here, right, is you'd select a clip and you're like, all right, I need to go to the inspector. I need to start fixing it. Say I want to apply an EQ. Let's just pick voice enhance. I actually don't like this effect, but I'm just trying to make an example. And then we're going to go to color, say, all right, I want to just add some contrast. And some saturation. All right, so say that's what I want to do, right? I want to just add a little bit of audio, a little bit of color. Now what, right? So I've got this clip. This clip's great. But what about the rest, right? They're untouched. And so what I used to do, and what you can still do if you want, is you can select, edit one clip the way that you really, really want it, hit Command C, and then pick another clip. Or pick all the other clips, hold down Shift and select all these. Obviously, don't do this one. But what you can do here is actually do Shift Command V, which in Final Cut Pro is paste attribute. So it's not copying and pasting the clip, it's copying and pasting the attributes of the clip that I copied to this. So if I hit Shift Command V, the attributes are on the video side color wheels and on the audio side an EQ. So what I can do is hit paste, and you can see all these waveforms jump up to show me that now these are all colored. And then if I go past it to the ones I didn't do that to, you can see they're kind of flat, more natural looking. So I'm going to undo that. All right, so now we're back to where we started. I've undone everything. So what I love about multicam clips inside Final Cut Pro is that you can actually apply stuff to the master clips themselves instead of just doing it on the surface level, where it oftentimes gets to be a real pain in the butt when you have all these cuts and all these individual clips to try and work with. And then if you change your mind later, you then have to tweak one and then take it off of all the other clips and then reapply it to all the other clips. Instead, I'm just going to double click here. I'm going to zoom out so I see everything. And then if I want camera one to look a certain way, I can go inside camera one. I can just select that one. And let's say I want to boost the saturation on this that much, and then just bring the shadows down. Now that I've made that change, if I go back here and I look, all of the camera one clips have now been adjusted. Camera two looks like it did originally, but all these camera one clips have that effect applied to them inside the project. So I just saved myself a ton of time. And then if I go, you know what, that does look a little bit too dark. Let me boost this. I'll return that to where it was, or just pull it down and then add some highlights. Just give myself a little bit more to work with here. And I go back to my project. Then all the camera one clips now mimic that change. If I had done that to each individual clip, I would have had to adjust one of them to what I decided I liked secondly. And then since all these other clips would have already had that adjustment applied to them, it wouldn't follow that if I adjust this one, these ones would follow it, right? So I'd have to select all these other clips, hit Shift Command X, remove all the attributes that I just pasted on there, and then repaste the attributes back on. If you have to do that, you can. If you get stuck in a weird situation, but generally speaking, editing stuff in here. So if I want to do all my audio adjustments, I'm going to do it directly on this clip. And if I want to make certain angle adjustments or certain color adjustments to these two camera angles, I can make them match each other. If you're working with two different cameras from two families, you really, really want to do it in here, because then you can match these two here instead of having to do that every single clip in your other project. So this is what I love about multicam editing in Final Cut Pro, is that it's just so daggone easy to make adjustments to stuff inside here. And then once you're in the project, it's pretty much done for you. It's ready to go. It's ready to export instead of me having to dive into each individual clip. So all that to say, I really, really think multicam editing does not have to be so difficult. I will say, if you're still using a free editor, it may be time for you to invest a few $100s in a paid editor that will let you do this kind of stuff automatically. I know you can obviously sync stuff by hand in any software, but just save yourself the time and effort. Spend $300 on this software or spend whatever Adobe Premiere Pro subscription requires of you. It's going to be worth the time and investment to get these kinds of tools if you're serious about continuing to do video ministry as we move through whatever's left of COVID and into the future beyond that. You just want to be able to save yourself the time and effort if you're going to be doing this on a regular basis. And don't let the intimidation of pulling off and executing hinder you from even wanting to pursue multicam shooting for sermons or for worship sets, because it really does make your videos that much more engaging, especially if it's a 35-minute sermon, to get a different point of view, a different perspective. So don't let your fear of being able to pull that off hold you back from serving your people well by being able to figure it out. All right, guys, I hope this video has been super informative and helpful for you to not be so intimidated by multicam shooting. It really adds a lot to your online church content when your audience has more than one point of view to switch from to help them stay engaged. Remember, the number one reason why video production quality matters is not to impress our audience, it's so that we do not distract them. Having a good game plan and learning the proper techniques for filming in order to increase engagement is a great way for us to serve our people during this weird season. All right, that's it for today, guys. Again, hit that like button if this video helped you at all, and check out the free church video gear guide link below for tips and pointers on the best gear for your church moving forward. I'll see you next time.